When I stepped outside that morning, I couldn't believe my ISA bulldozer was tearing through our driveway. Halfway in, the tunnel's roof caved, sirens wailed, and my grandmother stood there sobbing. Meanwhile, Linda, the HOA president, just sipped her iced tea like she'd called for takeout instead of a demolition. What she didn't realize was that the tunnel had been built by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in 1952, a federally protected relic. She just stumbled into a federal crime. Let me back up and unpack this wild mess, because I know you're wondering how this even happened, how it was legal, and how she didn't see it coming. Trust me, I've been asking myself the same questions since our neighborhood's most overzealous HOA decided to play Wrecking Crew on a Cold War landmark, like they were auditioning for a doomsday reality show. It all started when I moved into my grandparents' house last year after my grandfather passed. It was meant to be temporary just until I sorted out the property, but it became more than that. The house is old stone and brick, with ivy creeping up the walls like it's guarding decades of memories. My grandfather built half of it himself. The other half came courtesy of the government. Beneath the hill ran a tunnel leading to a concrete bunker, a Cold War project by the Army Corps. It wasn't just some quirky feature. It was a registered historical site, a piece of my grandfather's pride from his SER-VYC days. He'd tell me tales of its construction, his hands shaping it under military oversight, all top secret back then. As a kid, I'd play in that tunnel, imagining it led to hidden labs or spy bases. To us, it was family history. Then Linda showed up. 3 months ago, she marched in with a shiny new HOA badge, an attitude like a hall monitor on a power trip, and a voice that never quit. She just seized the presidency in what I'd call a coup held during a sneaky 10 a.m. Wednesday vote most of us missed. One day, she was the nosy neighbor pruning everyone's roses. The next, she wielded real power and couldn't wait to flex it. First, she nagged me about my trash cans being VY-sible. Then my mailbox clashed with the neighborhood's aesthetic unity. Finally, she hit me with a notice about an unauthorized subterranean structure, posing a safety risk in violating HOA design rules. She meant the tunnel, the one older than her, built by the Army, and smarter than her clipboard. I figured it was a mix-up, so I invited her over for tea, playing nice. I showed her the paperwork, the Tunnel State Historical Registry listing, the Army Corps approval, even a Preservation Society article calling it a Cold War gem. She skimmed it like it was spam mail, smirked, and said, "This isn't a museum, sweetie. It's a neighborhood. We don't do bunkers or creepy tunnels." I explained it wasn't some DIY project, it predated the HOA by decades. She brushed it off, claiming she'd consulted a compliance expert, and the tunnel had to go. I laughed. She didn't. That's when I saw she wasn't joking. She genuinely thought her flimsy HOA rules outranked federal law. You could see the thrill in her eyes, the rush of control that makes someone feel invincible, even when they're wading into a legal minefield. Things escalated fast. She sent warnings, fines, then final notices. I replied with polite, documented rebuttals. She ignored them. She even claimed a zoning contact told her the tunnel failed seismic standards, a bold lie from someone who probably couldn't spell engineering. I reminded her it was exempt. She didn't care. She wanted it gone because it didn't fit her vision of suburban perfection. It got stranger. One morning I caught her in my yard, Union VY-TED, clipboard in hand, staring at where the tunnel ran underground. She called it a VY-SUL audit. I told her to leave. She sighed, "I'm documenting non-compliance." I warned her those records might end up in court. My grandmother started worrying we'd lose the house or have to rip up the floors. I assured her they couldn't touch us, but Linda didn't bluff, she bulldozed. I woke to the roar of machinery. Outside, a bulldozer was clawing our driveway, the tunnel collapsing beneath it. The operator looked baffled but followed orders. Linda stood there, smug as ever, sipping her tea. Sirens approached, neighbors thought it was a gas leak. My grandmother wept. Linda said, "This was overdue." I snapped, "You just trashed a federally registered Cold War structure built by the Army Corps in 1952. Her smirk flickered. That tiny crack told me she had no clue what she'd done or what was coming. By the time firefighters arrived, the tunnel was a sinkhole swallowing half our yard. Linda still acted like it was no big deal. The bulldozer guy muttered he was just told to clear debris by the HOA president, unaware of its history. Of course, they only knew what Linda fed him. I handed the firefighters my folder of documents, emails, registry proof, Everything I'd sent her. One radio chief, we need the county inspector. Maybe state preservation too. Linda twitched, a hint of panic breaking through her cool facade. I let it simmer. The next 48 hours were a blur. City inspectors came, then a preservation officer, then a quiet guy with a badge who took photos and asked Linda who authorized her to demolish a historic site. She stammered about safety codes and hazard mitigation. I handed over a flash drive every letter, video of her directing the bulldozer, the works. She fidgeted, adjusting her glasses like it had fixed the mess. Then an Army Corps historian arrived, thrilled until he saw the wreckage. Is this the 1952 shelter with dual-layer concrete? I nodded. He glared at Linda. Do you know what you've done? She mumbled about it being unsafe, undocumented. He shut her down. It's on state and federal registries. You had no jurisdiction. She tried to spin it, but the historian told me to file a claim. This could be a multi-agency case. Linda's excuses unraveled. She claimed she acted for the community. But bulldozing a landmark without permits isn't protocol, it's a felony. News vans rolled in that afternoon. My grandmother, heartbroken but poised, told them how my grandfather built it post-service to protect us and honor his country. Linda hid in the HOA clubhouse, posting online about misinformation. No one bought it. Within days, the HOA's insurance bailed, levying the man Linda liable. The State Historical Office called about potential charges: destruction of protected property, trespassing, maybe conspiracy if she misled her board. Neighbors turned on her, sharing their own Linda horror story finds for wind chimes, paint colors, you name it. She emailed about harassment. But screenshots of my warnings proved she knew everything. Still, no apology. The tunnel wasn't lost. The Corps said restoration was possible, maybe even funded, given the publicity. The state might strip the HOA's power during the investigation. Linda's reign was collapsing, and I hadn't even filed my CIVIL suit yet. But I would. She had no idea what was next.